next guest, and not really guest, co-host, and our Canadian correspondent, Mike Shoesmith. He is with us, and he is the executive editor of PNN News and Ministry Network. He's also an author and a syndicated blogger, and he's also a licensed private investigator in the great nation of Canada. And he's been with me practically ever since this show cranked up many years ago. So, Mike Shoesmith, it's good to have you. Listen, so I understand that there's some news out of Israel that has shaken the paleontological world to the core and has caused them once again to proclaim, the evolutionists to proclaim, this changes everything. How many times have we heard that? And here we go again. But this is particularly interesting. I know our listeners in Israel are there. You guys need to perk your ears up because this is about you. Mike, explain it.
The archaeological and anthropological breadcrumbs all seem to be leading to Israel these days, Carl. I heard someone say recently that if 2017 was the year of exposing fake news, then 2018 will be the year of exposing fake science.
Sure seems so.
And so this all ties into a story that we exposed, we talked about out of Haaretz a few weeks ago. Archaeologists may have uncovered the oldest known prehistoric school. Remember that one?
Uh-huh.
Where it seems that young hominins were taught how to make flint tools and butcher animals and learn all these different skills. The notion that they found was evidence of an early teaching system based on analysis of hundreds of flintstones, etc. And it's in central Israel, in the Kasem Cave, a spot that hominins called a home for 400,000 to 200,000 years ago, Carl. 400,000 years ago.
Right.
What? Wait a minute.
Right.
The discovery may attest that our ancestors developed complex cultural patterns and so on. And it challenges the idea that Homo sapiens developed in Africa. Okay,
right.
I'm not going to go into this whole story, but people can go over our material and look that
up. Yeah, and I just
posted
posted that article at freedomfriday. Carl Gallups on Facebook.
Right. So the whole idea that humans came out of Africa has now been upended, and they have to rethink everything, right? All these evolutionists, right?
Right.
Well, now this story comes out just the other day out of Israel. This is the Jewish press reporting. A jawbone complete with teeth recently discovered at Israel's Misliya cave on the western slopes of Mount Carmel has now been dated to 177,000 to 194,000 years ago. The finding indicates that modern humans were present in the Levant at least 50,000 years earlier than previously thought.
Yeah.
This finding that early modern humans were present outside of Africa earlier than commonly believed completely changes our view, Carl, of modern dispersal in the history of modern human evolution.
Yeah. Changes our view. Completely changes our view of modern human. And that's the evolutionist saying that, not just you and me.
Right. Yeah. Science. It's important for people to know that the word science comes from the Latin word scientia, which literally means knowledge. And scientific method is using knowledge to make predictions, right? You have this knowledge, you use that knowledge to make predictions. That's how we go into space and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Anyways, they don't know anything, basically, is what they're all admitting. We don't know anything. Everything we thought we knew was all wrong.
Yeah.
This professor,
we've been trying to tell them for years they were all wrong. I mean, we just and we were called idiots for it, and now they're having to say we were all wrong. Yes, we knew you were. Yeah, go ahead.
We've been saying for years. It all comes down to these so-called scientists. They're all climbing this mountain of knowledge, and when they actually pick up bits of real, actual knowledge, they keep climbing this mountain. And when they get to the top of the mountain, Carl, they're going to be greeted by a preacher with a Bible saying, "What took you so long?"
Yeah. What took you so long? We knew this all along.
Right. This Professor Hershkovitz led the international team. The common consensus of anthropologists has been that modern humans appeared in Africa 160 to 200,000 years ago, based on fossils found in Ethiopia, etc., and that humans evolved in Africa and started migrating out of Africa about 100,000 years ago. The research team discovered the fossil and upper jawbone. The scientists applied various dating techniques and so on, and they analyzed and they made models, and they got out their grinders, and their arts and crafts projects.
Yeah.
How they like to do, right?
And better yet, their color crayons and their paints and their paper, and they draw illustrations of what they think it might be, and they put them in the school textbooks and teach our children that that's how they were.
Right. Well, if we were playing the drinking game, with shots of whiskey, and we were looking over this article, every time the word "if" comes up, we took a drink, we'd all be hammered after 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But no, like they're all saying, if we came out of Africa,
Yeah.
then this pushes back these numbers and so on. These numbers, Carl, they're all made up. It all comes down to the the example I gave recently of the hard-boiled egg, right? Like I get out a hard-boiled egg and I put it on the counter, and then I go to slip and fall, and I brace myself on the counter, and then I put my hand on the hard-boiled egg and I crush it. Then you come in a minute later after I go to get something to clean up, and you say, Mike, come here. Look at this. It must have taken thousands of years for this hard-boiled egg to just collapse like that all by itself. And I'm like, listen, I just did that like 3 minutes ago. I just did that with my hand. They take out the existence of God, and they say there is no God, therefore these numbers must be enormous.
Yeah.
And you guys just have to trust us because we're on welfare and we're all scientists.
Well, if there is no God, if there is no intelligent designer, then the numbers do have to be enormous to even have a modicum of a possibility of an indication that it might have happened accidentally. I mean, if you take out an intelligent designer, but like you said, I'm looking at this article, nearly 200,000 years ago, and about 60,000 years ago, they found a trove of over 100,000-year-old humans. What? How do they? Oh my gosh, we've talked about this so many. They just throw these tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of years around as though it's just exacting science, and most of it is junk science.
Well, they basically have to say, when they bring up, okay, this, it looks like this might have happened 2 million years ago, give or take 1.8 million years.
yeah, give or take.
That's how off they are. There's one paragraph in this Jewish press article. All of the anatomical details in the Mixlaia fossil are fully consistent with modern humans.
Yeah.
With some features resemble. Well, why are they fully consistent with modern humans, Carl?
Right.
Because they are modern humans.
Yeah, and not only that, they're fully consistent with modern humans, yet they're the oldest known fossils of a human civilization we have. Well, what does that do to this whole Neanderthal thing and everything else and all,
You mean the Nephilim thing?
Yeah, the thing is, of course, the scriptures are fairly clear, and I've done tons of research. I don't want to bore our audience with this right now, but I've got it all resourced. The scriptures are clear, backed up by tons of scholarly research into this for many, many decades, that the beginning of civilization was in the Middle East, and particularly in the boundaries of what we would call the Promised Land.
And it looks like there's now just a trickle of evidence coming in now. By the way, that article from Haaretz that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and now this article from the Jewish Press, it's all just starting to trickle in, Carl.
Yes.
And I think we're going to start to see a flood of evidence coming out of the Middle East, Israel in particular. Israel is not bound. Listen, folks, historical Israel is not bound by the 67 borders.
Exactly.
Okay? Israel is a large nation.
Yes.
And right now it is being tormented by terrorists. Israel is not limited to that tiny little sliver of land out there that is called Israel today. And God will expand its borders eventually when he comes back, maybe sooner. But, God is going to expand the borders of Israel back to where he commanded that they be, and Israel is enormous. There's a lot of land there that belongs to the Jews. That's a whole other topic, right? But getting back to the Jewish people, I just got an email from Zev earlier today, actually, and he is saying that people in Israel, especially the rabbis, are infuriated by this article out of the Jewish press. They're saying this is completely wrong. Why are they saying this is amazing, Carl? What Zev shared with me. Saying, why is this article? Why are the Jews so infuriated with this? Not because they're questioning whether or not humanity came out of Israel. I assume they would agree with that. What they're furious about is exactly what you and I are furious about, is these enormous numbers. the rabbis in Israel are saying, listen, the earth is 6,000 years old. And this is what they're telling Zev. So Zev is listening to these rabbis over there, and he's saying, oh, really? So actually we have some common ground here. You and I both agree on the young earth theory. Now let's talk about Yeshua. Let's see if we can agree about that. So Zev is seeing a little bit of a door opening here, and he's just kicking it wide open and saying, okay, let's talk about this, right? It's just amazing how the Lord is working over there.
Yeah, no, I know it really is. And I was, as I said, I don't want to bore our audience with the nitty-gritty research, scientific details, but for many decades, there has been some deep scientific, biblical, and scholarly, all of those together, and they're not necessarily exclusive of each other, but research and researchers who have immersed themselves in this study of what we would call the Middle East, and particularly what we would call the ancient borders of Israel, the Holy Land, the Promised Land, and for decades prior to the discoveries we're talking about, because what we're talking about only trickled out in the last couple of weeks, but for decades there has been speculation, which has been laughed at by the evolutionists as unscientific and stupid, that it all began right there. It all began over there. And so, of course, they said, no, don't you know that we know where it began? It began in Africa. We know. We've got the evidence. You're an idiot. You're one of those that believes in the Bible. Well, now, here we are, 2018, last couple of weeks. Guess where the oldest human remains on the planet in all of history have just been found? In the Promised Land. In the Promised Land.
That's right. Carl, and we'll end this segment with this. I really believe that this whole notion of life emerged out of Africa is based completely in racism, because they a lot of their conclusions are based on how things look, how things appear, right? Mm-hmm. And when you look at African people who live in that area, they do have these resemblances to something that may have come from apes. I know that sounds weird, but we can have children with African people.
Sure.
We're not. God would say to the racist Aaron, if you, I'm sorry, Moses' sister, who had a problem with
Miriam.
Miriam.
Yeah.
That had a problem with Moses marrying an Ethiopian girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miriam, if you want to be such a white girl, if you're so proud of being white, I'll make you white. Here's some leprosy for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see how you like that much.
Yeah.
White.
He cursed her skin for her racism.
Right, and so you and I would say, listen, I hate racism because God hates racism, and I want to be on God's side of things.
And let me just jump in because we got to take a break. And so the point that you made a little while ago, that somebody might have heard you say that and say, oh, he's a racist. No, Mike is telling you what the evolutionists have been saying, and Mike is telling you that so much racism has come out of evolution. I don't think Charles Darwin was a racist, but people who wanted to be racist, the Nazis, for example, the atheists, the communists that wanted to destroy, genocide whole races of people, they used evolution as their scientific basis to do it, Mike. That's the point you're making.
And all you have to do is read these scientific articles to read all of the underbelly of racism in the articles. This appears to be this, and this appears to be that. Look how much similar this person is to this fossil, this ape fossil that we found.
Right. That's it.
Yeah. Right. And this is a shameful and abominable racism within the evolution community. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I know that. I know what you were saying. I just want to make sure our audience knows. But this is a fascinating article. Again, decades ago, researchers were saying, I think we're going to find evidence that the oldest human remains are going to be found in the Promised Land area, and now it has happened. And yeah, so that's the point. That's amazing. Well, we've got more to talk about. But Mike, listen, I hear the music. We're going to have to take a quick.
The Satanists wanted to install their own tribute, a pagan idol, on the Capitol grounds, right next to the Ten Commandments.
Billions around the planet are witnessing a world in the grasp of sadistic spiritual darkness. This unholy alliance has infected our governments, our religious institutions, and our societies. The world appears to be unraveling. But can the evil behind these dark supernatural forces be defeated? Is everything playing out just as the Bible predicted it will in the final days? At last, you can know the answers to mankind's most urgent questions and learn your destiny among today's events in the new, unprecedented work taking the prophecy world by storm. Gods and Thrones, Nakash, Forgotten Prophecy and the Return of the Elohim by best-selling author, former decorated law enforcement officer, and senior pastor Carl Gallups. This changes everything. Available now wherever fine books are sold.